And here we are. I am Diane Wong with the Racial Justice Collaborative. I just want to uh, really thank everybody for coming today. We have a big agenda and we're going to have to keep it tight. So we won't all get a chance to say everything we want to say, including me. So welcome to the Racial Justice Collaborative session titled Moving from White Defensiveness to Racial Resilience. We are recording this session, so anybody who does not want to see themselves somehow, you may never see yourself, but see yourself on film, please turn off your camera. We will have everybody muted, and you'll have time for questions and answers and discussions in debriefing in the large groups. So during those times, please unmute yourselves. We are not taking a break. We're going to keep going from start to finish, but we're all adults. If you need to take a break, just take a break. You're probably at home. So this is the 6th event in the Each One Teach One series. And remember that what we present today is a process. It is a painstaking process that we're bringing you. It's the first of its kind that we're presenting, but it is not magic. And this is not a quick fix. It's going to require practice, practice, practice. Over the next year, we will roll out practice sessions. So watch for those. And if you want us to develop resilience sessions for your groups, we can do that too. Just contact us and we'll do that. I have here an acknowledgement page. We have a platinum sponsor in the CIRA community, and we have lots of groups within the Mass Cultural Council that are sponsoring us today. The Somerville Arts Council, the Wayland Arts Cultural Council, the Wellesley Cultural Council, the Natick Cultural Council, and the Newton Cultural Council. So let me bring, without any delay, we'll bring the presenter for today, the main presenter, Lane Arye. So if we can bring Lane to the spotlight and remove me. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I am Lane Arye, and thank you, Diane, for your intro and also for your visionary and impassioned leadership at the Racial Justice Collaborative. And I just want to say about we would love actually to see your faces. Please don't put yourself on, please don't turn off your video unless you feel like you really want to. And please, we also really want to hear your voices. So when it's time to share and stuff like that, that would be really great to hear from you. So yeah, so moving from white defensiveness toward racial resilience is key. In our next event, we're gonna be talking about reparations. Moving out of white defensiveness and toward racial resilience is key for any discussions about reparations and also for really any racial conversation. And I know from my personal experience how white defensiveness gets triggered in me in racial conversations often, and how often white defensiveness can sidetrack and sabotage and shut down racial conversations, and how white defensiveness often hurts and invalidates and enrages Black and Indigenous and other people of color. So in this workshop, instead of focusing on racial socialization and white privilege and microaggressions that are all like super important and that we work with a lot, we're going to instead work with the emotional and visceral manifestations of white defensiveness. And this work that we do today can be used in any racial situation or any conversation with people from the global majority. Since the Racial Justice Collaborative is primarily focused on anti-Black racism, today we're going to be talking about how white defensiveness shows up specifically with Black people. And I just want to say this workshop isn't about staying comfortable. And Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in his letter from a Birmingham jail, he wrote, I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. And, you know, many Black people are enraged and outraged for a really good reason. And if we want to have the racial conversations that are needed, we have to learn to sit in that fire and sit with what that fire stirs up in us. Whoa, I got muted somehow. There we go. Just a little trigger warning, if you're a white person, this workshop may well trigger your defensiveness, and it may already have. And our hope is that you're also going to learn tools to work with that. And if you're a Black or Indigenous or other person of color, it may trigger your frustration or despair or rage hearing white folks talk openly about our defensiveness. And our hope is that it may also bring you some relief as you see white folks working with our defensiveness and building our racial resilience. And also, we hope that you're going to learn some tools to find your own resilience in the face of white defensiveness. All right, so now Jai is going to lead us through a body experience to help us arrive. We are the two other large group facilitators today, co-leads of this workshop are Jai Tomlin and Irina Fegina. I hope I pronounced your name right, Irina. And so here's Jai.
Thank you, Lane. I'm just going to lead us through a minute or two of a very easy way to get comfortable and get present and get settled in our Zoom room today together. So welcome, everyone. Go ahead and let yourself just feel comfortable sitting on your chair with your feet flat on the floor in front of you and with your knees pointed forward. Since your bones at the very bottom, your sits bones, there are two bones that you sit on, since those just sinking into the bottom of the chair, the little bones at the bottom of your pelvis. Feel those bones. Just a little way to become present and get grounded in the moment here together. As you feel those bones on the chair, just rock a little bit around on those bones, back and forth, side to side, feeling the pressure, feeling yourself settle in. Taking a breath. Find a place of balance by sitting still and letting the weight of your body settle downward in front of those sits bones. And at the same time, push gently upward towards the top of your head. So you're stretching and elongating. Sit tall, visualizing small weights attached to each of your sits bones, in, exerting a downward pressure or a pull towards the earth. Let yourself feel connected to the earth, feeling a sense of connection to the ground through your pelvic floor. Feel yourself being present in this moment and open. And now we're going to go back to Lane.
Thank you, Jai. Yeah. Whew. So I'd like to talk a little bit about white defensiveness before we get more experiential. And I'm not sure if this is your experience, but I've often been defensive in conversations about race, both in conversations with white people about race and particularly in conversations with Black people. And I just want to remind you that we're talking today about primarily about white defensiveness with Black people, although, of course, white defensiveness can happen with anybody from the global majority. So I'm just going to start my screen share here. Give me a second. Let me make sure I'm on the right one. There we go. There's my screen share. All right. So, all right. So, I just want to
showing
talk
us your
about,
notes. It's great to see them.
You have my notes. That sucks. Whoa, sorry for that. We're going to have to change that screen share to something else. Stop the share. Try it again. Thanks, Lolo. I really needed to know that. It
Lane,
should
I
be
think you shared your desktop
just
rather
the
than an
PowerPoint.
application.
How's that? Is that
Perfect.
better?
That's good.
Nice. All right. Okay. So I just want to talk about, first of all, some of the ways that white defensiveness shows up in me during racial conversations, or even sometimes in conversations with Black folks, conversations that aren't about race. And as I talk about them, I want to invite the white people here to notice whether you have experienced any similar kinds of defensiveness. So here's some different types of white defensiveness. So for instance, I might notice myself holding back from speaking or being careful with my words. I might think, I'm a good white person, so they must not be talking about me. Or I might try to show that I'm a good white person by talking about all the good things that I do about race. This comes from what Robin DiAngelo calls the false binary. The binary that says if we're good, that means we're not racist. If we do something racist, that means we're bad. And that's kind of instead of remembering that we grew up in a racist society, and of course we have some racism in us. And this untrue belief causes defensiveness, and it also leads to the next type of white defensiveness that I have used. I have tried to seek absolution or forgiveness by subtly pulling on a Black person to say that I'm okay, or pulling on them to show that they still like me. And my defensiveness is sometimes more blatant. For instance, when I argue and say, but you're misunderstanding me, or that's not what I meant, or you're not seeing my good intent, or you don't know me, that's not true about me. And sometimes defensiveness isn't expressed in something that I say or do. It just might be a feeling of shame or guilt or fear or even despair. And sometimes I just don't feel seen. At least they're not seeing the person I think I am or the person I'd like to be seen as. And other times defensiveness can just be a body experience, like a tightening or a contracting or heat raising in my body or tingling or tunnel vision. Or I might just space out and think about something else, dissociate. So I just want to invite all the white folks here to look at this list and check yourself out. Have any of the white people been defensive in any of these ways? And take a moment just to write in the chat which of these might be familiar to you. And don't hit send yet. I'm going to tell you in a moment when to hit send. Go on and just write in the chat just a word or two. Which of these ways might be familiar with you? Or write a different way that your racial defensiveness shows up. Don't hit send yet. Okay, now hit send. And Irina, could you read some of those comments out loud, please? Irina, are you there?
Oh, I am, and I forgot to unmute.
There we go. Thank you.
Wanting to be seen as a good white person, shame, guilt, no way to do it right. seek absolution, holding back, being careful, feeling misunderstood, body experiences, believing, tightening. Many people saying seeking absolution. One person in particular says from BIPOC friends and family in the beginning stages of my learning of race and racism.
Great, thank you, thank you. So yes, I mean, it's a bad thing to be thrilled about. I'm not thrilled that so much white defensiveness shows up, but I am thrilled that the folks who are here are being honest about it. That is what's super important. So thank you all, and thank you, Irina, for that. So why do white people get defensive? So there's a lot of different reasons for this. One is that we're all racially socialized by TV and movies and books and schools and our families, and we internalize messages from society that white people are better, that black people are dangerous, angry, criminal. And even if we don't consciously believe these messages, they live inside of us. Project Implicit created the implicit association test that you can do online, and millions of folks have done these tests, and hundreds of studies have been done on the results that were gathered. And these studies show that we all have biases and that we're often unaware of them. And our biases often go against our stated values and our beliefs about ourselves. Our gut reactions just happen below the level of awareness and way faster than we can think. So if we add to that a kind of trauma called moral injury happens when we do something that goes against our deeply held moral beliefs. It's traumatizing. And we can also experience moral injury when we don't prevent something that goes against our beliefs, or when we witness something that goes against our deeply held moral beliefs. And I know that I personally feel a traumatic moral injury when I watch a video of Derek Chauvin's knee on George Floyd's neck. And I also feel it every single time I hear about violence and degradation that black people are forced to experience by people who look like me. I feel that moral injury. And because it's so painful, and most of us want to avoid that pain, we get defensive when we're reminded of it. And especially when we're reminded that we're somehow part of that system, or when we get feedback that we may have hurt somebody racially. White defensiveness is also the result of socially engineered segregation, because most white people usually don't live near or go to school with black people. Most white people don't have much personal contact with black people. I don't know if that's true for you, but this increases our sense that black people are other. And Shakil Choudhury, in his great book, Deep Diversity, that just came out in the second edition, or is just about to come out in the second edition, quotes the psychologist David Myers, who wrote, "We fear what our ancestral history has prepared us to fear: snakes, spiders, and humans from outside our tribe." So when human beings feel threatened or stressed, for instance, any of the reasons that I just mentioned above, our amygdala activates. The amygdala is a group of cells near the base of the brain that processes strong emotions like fear. And when the amygdala activates, stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol are pumped through our body, creating a fight-flight response. And our heart and our breathing gets faster, and our muscles contract so we can fight or run away, and the prefrontal cortex at the front of our brain shuts down. And that's where we think and where we make sense of our emotions. That part of our brain is needed in order to feel compassion and empathy. And if the front of our brain shuts down, we can't think or communicate well. We don't have access to our empathy and our compassion. We act or overreact impulsively instead of according to our values. Or the opposite happens. Instead of going into fight or flight, our brains and our bodies prepare for injury. The heart slows down and opioids are released into our bodies to numb us. and we disengage from those around us and go deep inside of ourselves, or we float around and look at the scene from the outside. This is called dissociation. Here we don't overreact, but we're no longer present in the conversation, so we also can't live according to our values. And this all happens out of our conscious control and faster than conscious thought. So when we combine all these factors, it's no wonder that we might feel defensive around Black people. So let's talk about some of the consequences of white defensiveness. It can shut down the conversation. It can make Black people feel alone and unseen, or invalidated and dismissed. We might withdraw. For instance, if we feel shame, somebody said they feel shame, we might withdraw and pull inside of ourselves and focus on our own experience. I know that that's something that happens to me. We're no longer paying attention to the other person. We might actually leave the conversation. When we get defensive, the focus often goes to us, the white person. And defensiveness creates distance rather than intimacy. And it inhibits understanding and authentic communication. So I just want to mention one other particularly hurtful consequence of white defensiveness. And this I learned from Dr. Kenneth V. Hardy, who's a brilliant psychologist and author and speaker and consultant and supervisor. He also is my mentor about race, and I'm so honored that he asked me to write a chapter for his book, The Enduring, Invisible, and Ubiquitous Centrality of Whiteness, that's coming out later this fall. Sorry for the little plug there. But what's important is that Ken says that racial oppression is a traumatic form of interpersonal violence, which can lacerate the spirit, scar the soul, and puncture the psyche. And he says that rage can be a deep-seated emotional response to experiences of degradation and devaluation. He says rage is not the same as anger. He says that anger is a response to immediate experiences, but instead, rage builds over time as a result of cumulative suppressed emotions precipitated by voicelessness. That's a big thing. So, of course, it's hard for us white people to tolerate that rage. But if we get defensive and stop the Black person's expression of their rage, that silences the Black person, suppresses their emotions, and perpetuates that voicelessness, which of course just creates more rage and compounds their racial trauma. And I just want to let that sink in and say that weighs heavy on my heart. So, as you probably know, Robin DiAngelo has written a lot about white fragility, and I've learned so much from her books and her workshops. And I just want to pause for a moment and just invite you to notice what you're feeling, even as I bring up the term white fragility. I know some people don't like that term, so just notice what you're feeling as you even hear that term. And I especially appreciate Robin's focus on how white fragility functions in racial conversations as a tool of systemic and structural racism. She's not talking so much about an individual, but about the structural causes and systemic impact. And she says that white fragility functions as a powerful means of white racial control and the protection of white advantage. And by the way, I just want to say that's true whether or not it's intentional or unintentional. And she says it does that in many ways, like by maintaining white solidarity, by silencing Black people, by making white people appear to be the victims, and by hijacking or closing down racial conversations. So Resmaa Menakem is a trauma specialist and a New York Times bestselling author of My Grandmother's Hands, Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Minds and Bodies. And he writes, at the heart of white fragility, deeply embedded in the white body, lies the following conviction. Oh, I forgot to write this. There we go. At the heart of white fragility, deeply embedded in the body, lies the following conviction. We white people are incapable of feeling safe in the presence of black bodies. We are not just physically vulnerable, we are also emotionally helpless when we are around black bodies. And I want to stress this is not a conscious thought, but just take a moment and notice if you recognize that in yourself just a little bit. And he says that this is a trauma reaction that lives in white bodies. And he adds, whiteness does not equal fragility. That's a dodge created by white fragility itself, a way for white Americans to avoid responsibility of soothing themselves, metabolizing their own ancient historical and secondary trauma. He says, any attempts to address it through the head, the thinking, reasoning brain, we are doomed. That is why every answer, he says, needs to begin with the body. So I would just add that any attempts to address white defensiveness through the head only are doomed. Because it's super important, of course, to learn about the history and socialization and inequity and white centrality and different patterns of whiteness. And at the same time, once the amygdala hijacks us, and we're in a fight, flight, freeze response or a dissociation response, the thinking part of our brain just turns off. So it's about our own inner work. And in this workshop, we're going to come back to the individual and work with our own defensiveness. And we on our team feel that in addition to whatever anti-racist work white people do in the world, each white person has our own inner work to do as well. And that includes noticing our own defensiveness about race. Because when we notice our own defensiveness, we can work to be free of it. And the practices that we work with today, if we practice them, can give us the resilience and the fortitude to sit in the fire and be constructive and valuable partners in racial dialogue and racial justice and equity work. And of course, there's a lot of ways to work with defensiveness and grow resilience. We don't have a corner on the market. Whatever works for you, please just use it. But we are going to offer some practices that we feel can be helpful. And finally, I just want to quote the Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, a black mixed race woman who's a Zen monk, an author devoted to love and justice and real well-being. And she wrote, love and justice are not two. Without inner change, there can be no change. Without collective change, no change matters. So stop the share. There we go. All right. And I'm going to remove my spotlight. There we go. So, yeah. If you want, you can go up to the top right corner where there's a little box that says View and click on Gallery View so you can see everybody. Whoa, nice group. Hey, everybody. Hey, all right. So it would be great. We have some time for questions and comments about anything that's been said so far. It would be great to hear your voices. So just feel free to unmute yourself and speak. Or if you prefer, you can go and to the whoops, look at that. All right, get out of that. All right, or if you prefer, you can go to the reactions button and raise your hand. All right, nobody's got any questions. I guess we're done with the workshop. That's good. Susie, go on.
I don't have questions. I just wanted to share. I also want to name the silence. Like white silence is such a part of like defensiveness and part of how we see it. Can you see I'm going red even saying it? Can you see that reaction, everyone? I don't know if you can see it. Isn't that amazing?
Could you say,
wanna
Susie, what's your sense of what makes you go red when you say that?
Because it feels very edgy to say, I noticed there was a silence after you finished speaking, and that for white people to be silent in dialogues about racism and anti-racism work is a form of the way that white supremacy kind of asserts itself. And after hearing you speak about white defensiveness for the last sort of, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, I just wanted to name that silence that came when you invited us all to speak. And I'm sure, you know, there are all the reasons and but I don't want to go into that. I just want to name that silence that came in. I just want to notice it, and that I was, and then the thing I want to talk about is Dr. Kenneth Hardy's quote. I'm still sitting with the impact that had on me hearing you say that, his language and how he's talking about the cycles in which white supremacy establishes and maintains itself, and how white people and me as a white person are continually in that cycle, and kind of, but how violent it is, that violence, it's interpersonal violence, and that I can't remember the words he used, but they're really, it reminded me of barbed wire, you know, it was so violent and visceral, that language. And I'm really with that. So I just wanted to say.
I'm just going to put those quotes, sorry, it's part of my script, so it's going to say click on it sometimes, but I'm just going to put that in the chat to everybody so you can see that.
Thank you.
So I just thank you so much. That's from Ken Hardy. So thank you so much, Susie, for that. And I'm also so impacted by that. And I'm also really impacted by that you took the courage to say the forbidden thing. It's a breaking of white solidarity, right? That we don't talk about race, and we certainly don't.
I don't want to be police.
Excuse me?
That was an unintentional unmute right there. So
okay. Okay.
Just keep
So we don't talk about race, or certainly talk about somebody else's racism. And so that's a breaking of white solidarity. And the other super important thing about what you said, Susie, is that you noticed a visceral, physical response to that. And that's what we're working on in this workshop, is to notice that happens in our bodies. So thank you. Who else would like to say something? Go on, Adriana.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Yeah, thanks, Susie, because I also, I just want to share. I felt okay. I'm a little bit nervous to be also, and also maybe that is also a defensiveness. And I just felt also the silence, and I felt very uncomfortable. And I thought, oh my God, I want to say something, but I feel also very stupid in front of Black people. And also I feel like what I'm going to say is like, and I realized this is also quite defensiveness. Yeah, like even now, even before when you were talking, Len, I just felt really, my body was like, oh my God, the heart pumping. No, I will not say anxiety, because I'm not having anxiety, but I have to be honest, I'm safe to be in a Zoom box now. I will feel more uncomfortable if we're doing this in a group, in person. Yeah, so I feel very shy now talking. Yeah, it's funny. Wow. And I know that I'm talking, so that means that I'm not too shy, but yeah, I feel I don't know.
I so appreciate what you're saying, Adriana, and how open and vulnerable you're being by saying that. And it just reminds me so much of, like you say, I'm safe here, right?
Well, yeah, I'm
Right.
in a computer.
No, that's right. But it just reminds me of uh, what Resma Menakem said. You know, that at the heart of white fragility, deeply embedded in the white body, lies the conviction that we white people are incapable of feeling safe in the presence of black bodies. We're not just physically vulnerable, we're also emotionally helpless. And so you're noticing that and you're speaking to it, which is incredible. That's so needed, is just to be honest with ourselves and with each other about that. And as you know, if I'm in a room with a black person, who's actually in danger there, right? If I feel uncomfortable, I could call the police. I could get them kicked out of their job, right? Like it's like easy. Who's actually safe and who's actually not safe?
Yeah.
But the feeling is in you and in me. Whew. Yes. So thank you. Somebody else want to? Oh, Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan. You got to unmute yourself. Actually, you are unmuted, but
I can't
your
hear
mic's.
you.
There we go. Now we hear you. Oh, no. I thought that was Lolo saying that we can't hear you. All right. Adam, if you could help out with that at some point, maybe. I don't know if that's possible. Somebody else want to say something?
I'd say something.
Thank you, Grace.
It's like you said in your talk, is that to speak, it has to come. You can't be speaking from your head. It's more you have to try to speak from a deep place. And I just noticed in myself, because I often speak from my head. I speak a lot anyway, but I noticed that I was wanting to speak from my head. And then I just took in what you said. And really saying, if I want to speak in this meeting, it has to be a visceral, deep reaction. And that's the way I want to be. This.
Thank you, Grace. Yeah. I see some hearts coming up on the screen. Natasha, and this will be the last question, and then we're going to move into something more experiential. Go on, Natasha.
Hi. It's not a question, actually. Just what I'm noticing is I'm yawning a lot, and I often do that when I'm a bit tired, but I often do that when I'm also emotionally a bit stressed. So I just wanted to notice that. Yeah.
Wow. I'm so moved and happy and impressed, actually, that people are speaking to their physical and emotional experiences, because that's what this workshop is really all about. So, yeah. So thank you. Oh, Jonathan. Okay. Sorry, your audio is not working. Go on and rejoin, and maybe hopefully you'll have a chance also in the small groups that we're going to do soon to share, and then maybe later too in the large group. Alrighty. So I think it's time now to move into some more experiential stuff, and I'm going to find Irina on my screen.
Lane,
Yes.
did you want to also read what Jonathan said, because he had a point to make that he wrote in the chat?
Oh, I didn't see that. Could you read that, please, Susie?
Yeah, he said, wanted to make a point about feeling like I have to be perfect, showing up as a white person in conversations like this, and afraid of my shadow showing up.
Wow. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Susie, for catching that. Alrighty. Okay. And just raise your hand if you know that in yourself. And yeah, I see a lot of hands. A lot of pale hands. Alrighty. Irina, I'm going to spotlight you. There we go.
Great. Hey, everyone. Thank you for that discussion and for coming forward. We're going to shift gears and I'm going to lead you through an inner exploration of your experience of white defensiveness. So if you're a white person, I want to invite you to remember a time when you felt racially defensive with a Black person. I'll mention some possibilities to spark your memory. For example, it may have been in a tense conversation about race, or during a group process or group discussion about race, or it may have been in a conversation that was not overtly about race. It may have been at your workplace or in your school or on the street. Maybe someone was challenging you about your whiteness or your privilege in some way. Maybe you were watching another white person being challenged or being defensive in a racial interaction. Maybe you wanted to defend or protect that white person. Maybe you judged that white person or thought that you're not like them. Maybe you were relieved that the Black person was not upset with you. Or maybe a Black person was upset about something racial and you noticed yourself doubting whether that really was about race or whether the thing they were upset about was really so bad, or whether that Black person was being too sensitive or too angry. You may even have felt defensive in this workshop. Think over different situations and choose one that has some charge to it, but not so much charge that you'll get really upset and won't be able to process it. If you're a Black person or person of color, remember a time when a white person was being defensive with you, or when you witnessed a white person being defensive with another Black person or person of color. We're guessing you won't need prompts to remember them. Choose a time that has some charge to it, but not so much charge that you'll get really upset and won't be able to process it. So everyone, now remember the situation that you've chosen. Remember where you were. See it in your mind's eye. Remember the sounds, the smells. Remember the atmosphere of that situation. Was it relaxed or tense? Did the atmosphere stay the same or suddenly change? Remember what was happening there. Remember what you said and what the other person or other people said. Recall the scene. Now remember what was happening in your body during that experience. And go on and allow your body to feel that body experience now. If you can't remember what was happening in your body back then, really remember that situation and feel what's happening in your body right now. And also remember what was happening in your emotions back then. And if you can't remember what you were feeling in that situation, then notice your emotions right now as you remember that situation. As you recall all of this and let yourself experience it now, take a few notes about your experience in your body and in your emotions. So I imagine that this exploration might have brought up different things for different people. We'd like everyone to have an opportunity to share your experiences and hear about other people's experiences. So we're going to break up into small groups so that everyone has a chance to participate and share. Each small group is going to have a facilitator to hold the space for the conversation. And the facilitators will time everyone to make sure that everyone has a chance to speak. And the facilitators will also take a few notes to report back some key insights, shared experiences, challenges, aha moments, without identifying anyone in particular. And we have some questions to guide the discussion, so questions that you can address. And Lane, could you please put those questions in the chat so that once you go into the small groups, you can see them. So our questions are, the first one is, what was your experience in your body and in your emotions while remembering or reliving that situation? The second question is, what in your experience what's your experience in your body and your emotions now when you're talking about it in the moment? And the third question is, have you felt those body sensations and emotions in other conversations about race? So each one of you will have a chance to address those. And the small groups are really vitally important and an essential part of the experience of this workshop. So we really hope you're going to take advantage and participate. And we'll be in the small groups for about 15 minutes. Adam, take it away.
Adam, before you go, Adam, I just want to say again what Diane said earlier is that we have such a packed schedule that we're not taking a break because we don't want people to like, oh, I'm going to go on a bathroom break and then I'll come back like 20 minutes later or something like that. So if you need to go take care of your body, go for it. But come back because everything we're doing is like super, it's here for a reason. So, all right, just wanted to say that, Adam. Okay. Suddenly we have so few people. I don't know, people not coming back yet, I guess.
I think some people are still finishing up their conversations. The breakout rooms will automatically close in less than 1 minute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they started to close a full minute before they were forced to close. So, like Pharaoh just said. Hi, Annie. Hi. Hi, I know you from other events. Nancy? Yes, hi. Good to see you. Thank you. Hi, Diazina. I don't know how to say your name, but it was nice to meet you the other day.
I say Diazina, but internationally it's Diazina, so I'll answer to both.
Okay. I had a wonderful breakout group. Really loved it. So good. Everyone went deep. Yeah. Okay, I'll hold off. I'll hold off. I just got excited. We're in this pregnant pause lane, hoping people come back.
Yeah. Adam, it seems like the breakout groups went longer than 15 minutes.
We started a minute late, so I gave them an extra minute.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
It also was how long once the breakout room close button was hit for when they actually then all get sent back. So there was 2 minutes given for once the close breakout room button got pressed. So that's the other thing that you can change.
Yeah, so maybe if you could do a couple of minutes less, Adam, for next time, that would be great. Because
Seemed extremely short.
I know.
It always does.
But it'd been like 4 minutes and all of a sudden it was done. Whoa.
All right. So hello, welcome back, everybody. So we have some time now to debrief what happened in your explorations. And after that, I'd like to help somebody go deeper and explore their experience further if they'd like to deepen their learning. So let's start by hearing what happened in the breakout rooms, in the small groups. And it would be great to hear like some key insights and some aha moments or shared experiences or challenges from your group. So maybe a few of the facilitators could share, and maybe other small group facilitators, if you could please type a few notes into the chat, but not hit send yet. That would be great. So, yeah.
Oh, I just want, do you want us to just put it in the chat, or do you want us to share something now?
If a couple could share out loud, and the others who aren't going to share out loud, just write some stuff in the chat.
Okay, well, I have an interesting one. I don't know if it's an aha moment, but basically a person in my group had an incident just yesterday, I believe, where she wanted someone to mediate something. And the person she asked was a Black woman. And it ended up kind of turning itself into something difficult between this white woman and this Black woman. And in the moment, the white woman didn't think anything of it, but she said starting this morning, she's been rehashing it and wondering if there was a racial component to it that she didn't notice, and now starting to feel nervous and a gaping hole, etc. So it's rethinking and reviewing incidents that people have been in and wondering if they just didn't notice something. So
yeah. That's right. You don't know. You don't know. Sometimes we don't get the feedback, and so we don't know. And I appreciated what you said. There was a gaping hole, so that was more the kind of somatic experience of that. Then there's all the cognitive part. Did I miss something? What happened? And then there's like this. That emotional
that was her wording. That's a quote from her.
Gaping hole. Yeah. Thank you, Jordana. Daisina.
Okay. Yeah, so I had kind of something similar to what Jordana said, is my group really got into the body and the emotions and didn't stay in their head, and that was really amazing. One talked about being in the conversation and rushing backward and feeling like she was leaving her body. And she described her kind of like the bones in her cheek hollowing out as her body felt like it was hollowing out in that experience. And then there were, inside of the conversation, there was active participation and noticing, even as someone was sharing. They were saying, oh my goodness, I can still feel that I'm trying to be politically correct. Let me put this in another way. And so it was happening in the moment, which was beautiful. And there was a conversation about really feeling safe in the space to verbalize it and go deeper. And so the value in these sessions was brought to the forefront.
Wow. Thanks, Daisina. And I imagine for some, I don't know about this person you're talking about, but I imagine for some, having a Black facilitator and have to talk about your white defensiveness could bring up white defensiveness on its own. Yeah. So thank you for hanging in there yourself. Yeah. Yeah. So another group want to share? Katie, go on.
So we had a common theme too that I thought was interesting. A lot of members like feeling small and vulnerable and almost going back in time to childhood, and having this feeling of wanting to cry and feeling helpless, but ultimately like not feeling their own age. So going back to a point in time when, as if they were children, which I thought was really interesting and important.
Yeah. Thank you, Katie. That's so important. That, Resmaa Menakem in his book, My Grandmother's Hands, talks so much about racial trauma and how when we are in a trauma reaction, we go back to other moments in our lives when we have been traumatized. And so we have an implicit memory of something. The trauma lives in our bodies, actually. So it very often does feel like ooh, I'm not my age. I'm not any longer an adult who's able, and that's partly because the prefrontal cortex is gone. And we're just like in our body experience, and that's a trauma reaction. So thank you. Yeah. So let's, if could you all hit send on the chat so that we can see some of the other things that were said? And Irina, would you mind reading some of those? You're on mute.
Yes. Okay. Grief of losing relationships due to racism and white defensiveness, and feeling tired and ashamed of that, of how it severs relationships. Other folks mentioning shame, feeling altered, feeling frozen, wrong. A Black participant sharing fear, trauma, sobbing, needing to escape. That's a repeated theme as well, needing to escape, move away. Emotions of fear, confusion, guilt, disloyalty, body signals of quivering in the stomach, body agitation, anxiety, tightness, constriction also was mentioned in our group. Other folks mentioning anxiety and feeling that they don't know the right way to connect or to be with each other. Questions of how to honor the messiness of our growing awareness and not just be good, but also yet still show up with care and affirmation of the experiences of the other. The shock of a white person being called out by a Black person. Right, the difficulty of sharing, being white facilitator and having only white participants in my group once said they would not feel as comfortable sharing their defensiveness in front of Black participants, which is a defensive reaction.
Wow, that is great.
Yeah, also, also folks mentioning irritation and anger, and knowing that for a Black person, there's often not the option to feel the anger, and knowing that if one brings that forward as a person of color, the consequences may be very different for them than for a white person.
That was a person of color saying that? Yeah. Right. Right.
Rage, fear, self-judgment, criticism, tensing up.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I see Susie said, I separate myself out by being good. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Irina. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Maybe just to mention one thing, all the different ways that people have mentioned of distancing themselves and distracting and checking out and trying to create some kind of buffer.
Yeah.
I'm seeing threaded through here.
Thank you for highlighting that. That's so important. Yes. That dissociation. I'm gone, going to addictions or whatever. Yeah. Whatever our choice is for checking out. Yeah. I just want to come back to one thing that I said before and just put a finer point on that. I said that when we feel like a trauma reaction, we go back to a younger part of ourselves. And I just want to say that it's not the Black person who's traumatizing us, right? It's that we can get triggered and we go back to our trauma. That doesn't mean that that person is traumatizing me. That's a super important distinction. So didn't want to let that go by. Yeah, my kids say stuff that brings me back to being a little kid. They're not traumatizing me. They're just do something that reminds me of that moment. So, all right.
Thank you for saying that, Lane. That feels really important.
Okay, so now we have time to deepen with somebody. So if you are somebody who felt like you got into something that feels like you could learn more from, or would like to explore more, um, uh, that would be great to maybe use the reactions button on the bottom to raise your hand. If there's something that came up that, where, maybe you do feel like, whoa, oh, Sundiata. Yeah. All right. That's great. All right. Adam, would you mind pinning Sundiata and me? Yeah. Okay. Hey, Sundiata.
How you doing?
All right. Good to see you here always.
Good to see you too, Lane.
So what's up?
I learned some things that we had a very small group, and me and Chip talked, and he was pretty honest about something that he felt, which was,
well, it's probably good not to talk about other people's experience. This is a
okay,
time.
I'll say that. Okay.
This is a time to deepen if you got into something yourself.
Well, what I got into from speaking to the person that I was speaking to was listening to how there was a disconnect from, in my view, I felt like there was a disconnect from how his point of view was being taken, he felt he was being judged unfairly in the situation that he was in, because he wasn't really allowed to show his full view of what was going on from his perspective.
And so let's not talk about him. So what happened in you?
This is what I learned. I'm just listening. I'm learning and observing.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to understand why would somebody else be bothered by their situation. Of course, if you don't know all the details, it's hard to know.
So Sundiata, that is a rich question, and I am happy to discuss that with you another time. This particular
I didn't ask the question. I was saying that's what I learned.
That's what you learned. Oh, okay.
It's not,
okay. You just wanted to share what you learned.
Yeah, I learned from talking to the other person by listening to him.
Mm-hmm.
I learned some things about how he thought, what might make him uncomfortable and feel the way he felt, which helps me in my personality to understand another person.
I see.
What I'm requiring other people to do if we're going to respect each other.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Enough said.
Thank you. All right. So I see a couple of other hands up. So I have to say that was a moment there, Sundiata, if I might say, where my white defensiveness came up a little bit, because here I am, I'm leading this workshop. I have a certain plan for now. You came in and you said something that wasn't quite according to my plan, and then I'm like, okay, do I say something? You're a black man. We're talking about racism here. We're talking about anti-blackness. Do I say something, or do I hold myself back, which is also a kind of defensiveness, right? So, like, do I follow my plan? Do I just listen? Do I try to say what's true for me? Like, how can I be my real self and not put you down? So that was a rich moment for me in that moment. So how was that for you? Honestly.
That moment for me?
Yeah.
I don't think it was that deep for me. It's just we're having a conversation with two men.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for, yes. And I just want to say that as a white person, and I may not be the only white person in the room who may feel this way, that as a white person, I'm having all this stuff going on inside of me about what's also happening racially. Very often white people are like, I don't know what's going on racially. But in that moment, and I notice my defensiveness coming up a little bit, that I want to say, well, let's go to what I want to do, but I don't want to put you down. And so anyway, I just wanted to say that, be honest about that, and let's move on. Thank you, Sundiata. Enough said, as you say. All right. So who had their hands raised? Jonathan and Nonti. I don't know how to do that. I'm going to spin this pencil. This side is Nonti and this side is Jonathan. It's going to Nonti. Okay. Okay.
Hi, thank you.
So, Adam, could you please pin both of us? And Nonti, is it possible for you to turn your video on?
It's not, because I'm recovering from a migraine and I'm in bed.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. I know it is important to have cameras on in this kind of work.
I'm sorry that you're recovering from a migraine. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you're recovering.
Thank you. I think the first question I was going to say was when you were just explaining that a Black person is not traumatizing the white person. When you raise issues of race, you're just triggering the white person and they go back into whatever time in their childhood or whenever they experience trauma. So my question is, then would you say that with a Black person gets traumatized when a white person acts or does something, of course, that is racist, but on top of that, gets defensive when they being called in or called out on their behavior?
So you're saying, are you asking, can a Black person be traumatized by that?
Yeah, so I'm asking that. In the other way around, can a Black person say a white person is traumatizing me?
Yes, I think that racism is traumatizing. Racism is trauma. It's a kind of systemic, oppressive, and also relational trauma. And I do think that when microaggressions, those kind of daily kind of little things, death by 1,000 cuts that happen to Black people, Ibram X. Kendi says he doesn't like the word microaggressions. He likes the word racist abuse because of the impact that has on Black people and on other people of color. And so I think that kind of thing, so the original racism that was internalized by the white person and then kind of seeps out in that microaggression, is traumatizing. And then also on top of that, the white person's defensiveness is also traumatizing. So thank you for your question. I want to, we have about 10 more minutes. I want work with a white person on their defensiveness and go a little bit deeper. But thank you so much for your question, Nalti.
Lane, I
Nice
just
to
want
have you here. Yeah.
Diane's written something in the chat. Diane, do you want to say it, or it's really it's important?
Yes. Why are people talking about race issues but not deepening their own experience? What does that mean? That's a good question. We could talk about that, and then we'd be doing the same thing. But let's go to Jonathan. Do you have something that you want to deepen your own experience?
Hell yeah.
Nice. We hear you. We hear your voice. Nice. Thank you, Diane, for that. All right.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny. I had a hard time getting onto this. I needed a different, I didn't have the right computer system for this Zoom, whatever, Eventbrite. So I had to load up a different one. The reason I'm saying that is because when I was talking about in my breakout group about, when I have these awkward conversations, my white defensiveness, and it comes up and I shut down in my body, it feels like I'm almost like being asphyxiated, because I'm so used to having a certain way of being who I am, being authentically Jonathan and being in touch with my feelings, but and getting kudos from that. But it's it's coming from an outdated operating system that is completely divorced from this, or not completely divorced, but it's different than this operating system that we're talking about here. Right? So I shut down because I don't have the experience. I don't actually know how to run this. I don't have this operating system in me.
So I really am appreciating your symbolic thinking and the metaphor that you're bringing in. And let's come to your body.
Yeah.
You put your hands here. You said, I shut down and I feel like I'm being asphyxiated. Would you mind? Can we focus on that a little bit? Can we pay attention to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So notice what's happening under your hand there. Bring that experience to the foreground.
Yeah. It's like I'm being muzzled. I can't be spontaneous because I may say the wrong thing, and so I just feel like I'm being my whole throat and mouth and this whole area is just shut up. Shut down and shut up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes.
And I'm afraid. Yeah.
You're afraid? Go on.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing, and I'm going to get. I'm just going to be make an ass of myself, and it feels like kind of being between a rock and a hard place. It's just like I don't know how to express. I don't know how to open up because I don't know how. I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that you feel muzzled and told to shut up. And how does that feel in your body?
Yeah, it's something it doesn't feel good. It feels limiting. It feels, I feel like I want to run away. I don't want to deal with this.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to run away. I don't want to deal with it. Right. And you are between a rock and a hard place because if you run away and you don't deal with it, is that doing the right thing?
No.
Right. So how about just staying with it?
Yeah.
Yes. And if you just stay with that, and I notice your hand is on your chest there.
Yeah.
And let's imagine that hand wants to do something on your chest. Yes, it moved a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What does that hand want to do?
It's soothing the little boy. It's I want to say my heart, but I think it's the little boy inside of me that feels really confused and kind of lost.
Yes. That's right. So go on and let your hand soothe that little boy. And as you do that, I hear you breathing out a long breath.
Yeah, I feel like this little boy needs to be told it's not your fault.
Yes. That's right. Go on and tell that little boy it's not your fault.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
That's right. And notice that little boy's reaction.
He's just so afraid. He's so afraid of getting punished.
Yes, that's right. That little boy has always been afraid of getting punished. And here it's getting triggered.
So many reasons, so many reasons to get punished here. Even as a white man, just
well, let's not go into all the thinking. Yes, let's stay right here. So that little boy is afraid of being punished. He sees tons of reasons to be punished. He's always seen tons of reasons. This is an implicit memory. This isn't just happening now. This is trauma living in your body that's getting triggered by this racial situation, because race is traumatizing for everybody. That's why that wise voice that is behind that hand says, it isn't your fault. It isn't your fault. It isn't just you. This is hard. It's not your fault. We were all socialized into this.
Yeah.
It's not just you. Yes, that's right. And that boy is afraid. And if you could be with that boy now and soothe his fear. Yes. You, the grown-up, not the little boy.
Yeah.
Stroke him, soothe his fear. Yeah. Tell him it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm with you.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, you're scared and I'm with you.
You're scared and I'm with you.
Yeah.
I know this is an uncomfortable place for you.
Yes. But I'm here.
But I'm here.
Yeah. Right. That's right. Notice what happens inside. Do you feel scared anymore?
No, not so much.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So from this place, you might be able to express yourself a little better.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so important. That's it. Can we talk a little bit about what just happened there, Jonathan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I so appreciate your being so real. This is the thing you said you get kudos for, and I wanted to give you kudos for it. Right? And what's so beautiful about what you just did, so there's this thing that's like that, cutting off. There's a hand cutting off your ear saying, don't speak. But then there's another hand that comes on and says, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm with you.
Yeah.
And that other hand is your deeper wholeness, not just that little traumatized part.
Yeah.
And your bigger grown up When the little traumatized part is around, then the amygdala hijacks and whoa, I get, right? You have all these body reactions, you want to run away. But when the bigger part of you comes back, that's when the prefrontal cortex comes back. You're able to have empathy for him and compassion for him.
Yeah.
And now I just want to invite you to use that empathy and compassion to imagine the black person on the other side and realize that they too may feel, oh shit, I can't do this right. I'm going to get hurt. This is dangerous for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I, if I can I say something?
Sure.
Just
Isn't that great that you say, now you say, can I say something? Not, oops, I can't say something. So go on and say something. We're going to need to shift it a minute. Go on.
Yeah. I feel like I need to be able to forgive myself and forgive this little boy for taking in what he was told, and the racist violence that he was brought up with, and the fear that was instilled into him. There's a lot of shame there, and so I feel like that's all part of it's like just owning it and being with it and feeling it, forgiving it,
and forgiving yourself for your socialization, for your upbringing, and it's not, that's this wise part of you said it's not your fault. Of course you feel this way.
Yeah.
It's not any of our faults. Oh. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
That was really so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe some people could just put in the chat a word or two about feelings about what Jonathan just did. I know that there's people who are talking about CBT and stuff like that, but let's go back to the feelings. Just put in the chat something feeling about that, and then we'll move on. Gratitude and curiosity. I can relate. Enlightening, appreciating Jonathan's honesty, hopefulness, admiration, releasing. Yeah. My own chest restricted, then released, feeling lighter. I feel really touched to have met Jonathan's little boy and his care of him. From choking to open heart, empathy toward white people suffering, says Diane. Wow. Wow, I was touched to watch you both work. Thank you for sharing. Yes, gratitude. Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's move on. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, Adam, could you stop the pins? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to put myself on spotlight again. Thank you, everybody. Sorry to move so quickly through that. But that was deep. Yeah, we're going to come back and do some more deepening later. So now we're entering part 2 of the workshop. And what I just did with Jonathan was a great intro to that. We're going to start moving from that defensiveness toward resilience like Jonathan did. And racial resilience doesn't mean a lack of discomfort. It means being able to tolerate the discomfort and stay present with ourselves. And that also helps us stay present with the people who are with us in that tense racial situation. And we can become racially resilient when we learn to self-regulate and self-soothe, just like Jonathan showed us. So the amygdala calms down and the prefrontal cortex comes back online. And it also helps, as Jonathan did, to get in touch with our deepest selves. So we're going to do some practices that help with that. And like Diane said, this is not a one pill fix, right? We're not going to get resilient in doing this one time. If we do it one time, like in Jonathan now, a new neural pathway just got created in Jonathan's brain. The old neural pathway, that's like a superhighway. All cars go on that superhighway. A new neural pathway just got there. And every time we use these practices, those new neural pathway will get deeper and stronger and get myelinated. And so it's easier to find access to our resilience in the moments that we need it. And I just want to say, I use these practices a lot. If I'm heading into a racial conversation that I think is going to be tense, I do these practices before and during and after that conversation. So let's just start with this one. So sit in a comfortable position, which I always think is funny because why weren't we sitting in a comfortable position before? And you might want to close your eyes for this one if you want. And take 2 or 3 deep, satisfying breaths. And gently place your hand over your heart. This is what Jonathan naturally did. This was the exercise that we were going to do. Gently place your hand over your heart and just feel the gentle pressure and warmth of your hand. And if you'd like, you can place both hands on your heart and notice the difference between one hand or 2 hands. Just notice what you like better. And you might want to make some gentle kind of small circles with your hands, like Jonathan also did. And feel the natural rising and falling of your chest. And as you do that, remember something good about you. And soak that in. Remember something good about yourself and soak that in. Soak in your basic goodness. And know that this is true about you, even in a difficult situation. It's true about you even when you make a mistake. It's true about you even when somebody's mad at you. You still have this basic goodness. Just feel that. So you're already in a slightly altered state. Jai is going to come in and help us move even a little bit deeper to find an inner resource. Hold on one second. I have to find Jai.
Thank you, Lane.
Oh, there you are. Thank you. Go on.
Thank you, Lane, and thanks, Jonathan, for the work before. We're going to go just a little deeper and a little further now and find a personal tool for resilience. So I'm going to guide you now for just a few minutes through this guided inner meditation so we can find that inner resource that can help us stay open and present in difficult racial conversations. So go ahead and just relax, scan your body, get comfortable in your chair. I'm going to ask you something a little irrational. So leave your mind behind just for a few minutes. We'll come back to it, I promise. So ask yourself, where in your body in the moment is your deepest self located? I know it's an irrational thought, so don't think about it, just feel it. Is it in your belly, your heart, your chest, your arms, your legs? Just whatever comes to you right now, just let that be the spot where you can focus on in the moment, that part in your body. where your deepest, wisest self is located. When you found that part of your body, go ahead and take a breath and breathe into that part of your body where that deepest self is located in this moment. Doesn't have to be forever, just right now for the purpose of these few minutes. Feel that in your body. And once you have a sense of that, I'm going to ask you something irrational again. Sense the atmosphere of that spot in your body. Is it tight? Is it expansive? Is it just feel that atmosphere where that wisest self is? It might have an amazing atmosphere. And feel that and just make a slight gesture with your hand or with your arm to represent that deepest, wisest self in your body. Feel that atmosphere and go ahead and make a movement that expresses it somehow in some way that makes sense to you. Feeling that part of your body and then making that gesture. Again, asking yourself a very irrational question. Where on the earth might there be a similar atmosphere? Let your mind just imagine now a spot on the earth where that atmosphere that you just found, where that would be present. Maybe it's the wind. Maybe it's a babbling brook. Maybe it's the buzz of a city. Go ahead and find that spot on the earth that expresses the atmosphere that you found in your body and in that gesture. Use your imagination now and really feel that spot on the earth. And in your mind's eye, let yourself go there now. Sit or stand on that piece of earth, that piece of land. And notice now the atmosphere around you, the colors, the temperature, the sounds, the smells. Feel the power of the earth underneath you, coming through you. Let the power of this earth spot now just flow through your body. Really breathe into this. Feel it. Become it. From this beautiful earth spot, the spot that you found that's in yourself and that you have become in this moment, feeling it, sensing it. Now, from this spot, look back into your everyday self. Maybe give yourself just a little piece of advice or a tip that might be useful. From this deepest, wisest spot in your body and on the earth, ask yourself what inner resource would be helpful for you to stay open in difficult conversations around race. Breathe in that wisdom from your body and from the earth spot and ask, what resource could you gain from this spot to stay open and present in difficult moments and conversations around race? Just breathe that in. Really feel it. When you're ready, come back a little bit to maybe jot down a little note about that resource and how that might help you. And then put your hands on your heart once again. It's so great that Jonathan led us in that, and that we had already had this planned of a way to get in touch and self-soothe and feel your hand on your heart. Contact yourself. Feel that inner resource that you just accessed. And now Irina is going to take us further using these tools and these insights that we just accessed to help us then go further in difficult conversations.
Thank you, Jai, so much for this beautiful exercise. So helpful in this setting and many others, but especially in this work that just goes right to the heart of this difficult stuff. Okay, so we're going to take this space, this state that we have traveled to and accessed in ourselves, and we're going to come back to the work that we were doing earlier. So recall the experience that you worked with before. So if you're a white person, it was an experience of your racial defensiveness. If you're a Black person or person of color, it was an experience with a white person who was racially defensive. To bring up that situation again in your memory and see it in your mind's eye. Remember the atmosphere, the smells, the space. Now put your hands on your heart. Say to yourself, this is hard and I'm safe. I'm a good person. And now remember what was said in that situation. Keep your hands on your heart. Remember your own humanity and basic goodness. Listen again to what was said and remember the other person's humanity and basic goodness. If you're a white person, take in what the Black person said as feedback rather than an attack or criticism. And hold their feedback in your heart and accept it as a gift. Notice your body experience at this moment. Notice your emotions. Be as present to them as you can. Let yourself take a couple of notes about that. Jot down some key experiences that you have accessed. Okay. So this experience might have brought up different things for different people. And we'd like again for everyone to have an opportunity to share your experiences and to hear about other people's experiences. So we're going to split up into small groups again, with the same facilitator, same group as before. And again, everybody has a chance to participate, and we're going to have some questions to guide the discussion. Lane, could you please put those questions in the chat? So the 3 questions are, what was your experience in your body and your emotions this time? How was or wasn't that different from earlier today when you relived that situation? And did you find a tool or resource that could be useful for you in race dialogues and in your life? So again, the small groups are vitally important and an essential part of the experience of this workshop, and we really hope that you will take advantage of them. So we'll be in those small groups again for about 15 minutes. Okay, Adam, please put us in the small groups.
Hi, Laura. We tried to get you back in the group, but we couldn't. But
yeah, my whole computer shut down. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Oh no.
We missed you.
Never enough time.
That was quick.
Yeah, there's never enough time.
We got snatched right back, no warning. It was good.
Oh.
All right. So thank you, everybody. And yeah, let's hear from a couple of the small groups. If some of the facilitators, if a couple of facilitators want to share, and then the other ones write in the chat but not hit enter yet. I think I want to share about something from my group, if that's okay. Yeah, somebody, a couple of the people had a very similar experience that this time they were much more interested in and paying attention to the person who had given them feedback rather than on their own reaction, and feeling compassion for them rather than shame in themselves. And that was so important. A couple of white people reported that, and there was a black person who talked about feeling angry that we were taking care of a white person when black people who's afraid of getting attacked when black people are actually getting attacked. And that's so important. That's so important. And we talked about that. Hopefully, if we white people learn how to do this for ourselves, that we won't need black people to take care of us, and that we can just do that for ourselves. And then somebody else, sorry, I'm just going to say quickly, was talking about, I wish that I could say to that person who gave me feedback, who I then lost the relationship with, I wish I could say to that person that what you told me then changed my life, and I'm sorry for my response back then. And I just want to say to that person who shared that, you can do that. Go back and repair. Okay. Who else wanted to share from their group?
I see a hand from Dyson.
I'd like to share. In my group, there was an experience of feeling wider and feeling like the Zoom lens was coming out in terms of not just a focus specific on the individual, but looking at the greater context, an inner sense of gratitude and satisfaction, and something that happened 15 to 20 years ago, feeling forgiveness of self and forgiveness from the other person. And then in terms of tools, breathing, being grounded, keeping the feet grounded on the floor in terms of conversations. And then there was a beautiful exchange about the power of women inside of the conversation of race, being careful not to skew the attention to women and women's issues, but recognizing that all women have this incredible birthing power that we need to bring forward into the race conversation. And yeah, so those were the main points.
Thank you. Yeah. One other facilitator want to share what happened in your group before we ask the other ones to hit send?
Sure. I was just going to say that big focus, it is somewhat related to what you were saying about sort of the shift from original perception to the latter, but a big part of that original focus was on sort of the state of defensiveness where you need to seem knowledgeable in subjects in which you're not, and how that can lead to being in perpetual states of being unteachable because you don't present yourself in a position where it seems that you need to be taught. And so sort of opening those levels of vulnerability through those exercises can help lower one's walls, so to speak, to, you know, be in a more amenable position.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Pharaoh. Sundiata, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I wouldn't be right if I didn't share the experience of one of the people in my group. It was a European American woman, no names, and she said that she felt that, and from her perspective, there was too much coddling and not enough white people sticking to what's going on. That's what her point was. And I, you know, if I didn't say it, I mean, if I didn't relay that, I'd be wrong. She felt like that this was about people getting into this situation and dealing with the fire. And that's why she came. And she felt like this, we're not going to make any progress until that happens. So that's what she said.
Thank you, Sundiata.
Welcome.
I just want to say I'm totally in support of sitting in the fire and white people sitting in the fire. Absolutely. And from my perspective, at least, these kinds of tools can give white people the ability to stay in the fire instead of run away or get pissed off or turn off or get defensive. So, but I hear that, Sundiata, and hear that from, yes. Okay. You folks want to, yeah, the hit send in the chat. I see some people. Yes. Irina, do you want to read some of those?
Sure. Feelings of more dignity and strength, the ability to surrender, be more present with the person who is angry. Compassion for myself and the person I am with, realizing that the person I'm with also has the same kind of place inside them, also coming back to my body and the sea, nature place that I found, which tells me that with such love, you don't have to work so hard, slow down and come back.
Yeah.
White person sharing a still, slow, quiet, protected, timeless cave from which to listen and interact more slowly. So slowness, slowing down feels like a theme here. A glow from the center of the earth that is kind and holds me to be in the conversation. For the Black person, the importance of building relationship and to name the feeling, not thinking, but feeling is what's really important. Someone mentioned the experience of connectedness in the essence level that exercise invited us into within the complexity of the issue. Another shared discovering an animal that helped them connect more deeply to their experience. Finding wisdom, being more expansive, opening one's shoulders and chest, breathing, being present, being open. Other folks mentioning feelings of being more expanded, being part of something bigger, being enough, being grounded in the body, a refuge. Other folks also mentioning connecting with the bigger picture, having compassion for myself and learning that admitting what is happening in me rather than trying to hide it, opening up to that makes a big difference when feeling racial stress. Being present to the other. I am a speck in the sea and therefore can speak my truth in the moment of a racial conversation.
Awesome.
Another person saying, yeah, feeling wider, more amplified.
Elaine?
Grounding and opening.
Thank you, Irina. Yeah.
I have a comment. And it's I'm being responsive to the person who wants to see us sit in the fire. Nobody wants to sit in the fire more than I do. But what we want is we want people to come to the fire and bring themselves and be able to stay. So the reason we're doing this, totally, it's whatever you call it, it's coddling, but it's giving people some resources. Everybody's in a different place. And so we're giving people the kind of resources that allows them to practice and then come to these sitting in the fire events and stay. Because when we look out at times, what we see are white people who are afraid of Black people and afraid to sit in the fire. We're creating opportunities so that we can talk about reparations. That's going to mean people have to stay, hang in there and stay. So that is for people who are doing that. That's why we do this, starting in the beginning.
Thank you so much, Diane. Daisina, I saw that you wrote something in the chat. Would you mind saying it out loud?
Also, just want to name Annie's had their hand up for quite a while. Just throwing that out there. And
okay, sorry about that, Annie. I didn't notice. Do you want to say first, Annie, or Daisina? You just put your hand up.
No, I was just going to speak to that point very quickly and pass it over to Miss Annie. What I put in there in terms of the fire was it's a term that I've come up with, which is rage, fire, healing, and having the fire, having the rage in the service of healing. And in our group, someone brought up a beautiful visual of there's a volcano and there's all this magma and this hot, but having it in a way where we can feel the heat without the explosion and the injury. So I wanted to give voice to that.
Thank you. Yeah, good. Go on, Miss Annie.
Okay. I want to quickly make note to the people fear of speaking up, but because they're afraid that they might say the wrong thing, and I think that's a big mistake, because if you don't if you don't express what you're feeling, you don't get the feedback, so you don't know if it's wrong or not. The other point I'd like to make is this is intergenerational, but maybe it might take a different workshop to look at the experiences of older people, such as myself, sharing experiences with younger people, because our understanding and the way we react to other people are very, very different. And I always think that so many times we judge things based on the present without considering the fact that some of that perspective came from the past. And we are putting it into a different context depending on your own position and experiences. That's my soapbox.
Nice soapbox.
Really appreciating your wisdom there, and that sounds like a amazing idea for another event, is hearing from the elders and learning. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and not being afraid to speak up. Like, do speak up, because you get feedback. And we need the feedback, right? So we know.
And taking that feedback as a gift.
Yes. Yeah, isn't it?
Because it's not safe sometimes for Black people to give feedback, right? It's safer just to walk away and just cut me off, right? So if somebody's actually giving me the feedback, that's an act of generosity as far as I'm concerned. I also see Nonti wrote, I am sometimes accused of holding space for white people by people of my community. It is sometimes seen as protecting whiteness. I feel strongly we need these spaces to heal and move forward together, to hold the rage, to be courageous, to hold the pain, the trauma, and the fear together. Wow. Reminds me of something Nelson Mandela said to the BBC. An interviewer from the BBC said when he was in those negotiations with the apartheid government, he said, "You've been accused of trusting people who shouldn't be trusted." And he said, that is a fair accusation. And I find that when I trust them, they become more trustworthy. Doesn't mean you have to trust everybody. I'm not saying that, but yeah, if talk to the person you're hoping is on the other side, and sometimes they turn into that. That's what I'm hoping for. So who would like to go deeper with the experience that they had, that experience that Irina led us through in terms of going back to that situation of either of our own defensiveness or also when we were in the face of white defensiveness? Because for me, my hope is also that this is going to be useful for Black folks who have to deal with white defensiveness to be able to have resilience as well. So anyway, who would like to go deeper with that? And actually, I would like to respond to the calls for action and remind everybody what Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams said: love and justice are not two. Without interchange, there can be no change. Without collective change, no change matters. So let's go deeper with that experience you had that Irina led us through, and then how do we move from there to actually action? Who would like to work with that? I can imagine that white folks might feel shy now when they've heard, oh, I don't want to be seen as being coddled now. But I just want to remember what Diane said and Daisina said, that we need to learn to sit in the fire so that we can take effective action.
Marilyn has a hand up.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Sundiata.
Yeah.
Great. Adam, would you mind pinning me and Marilyn? Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing Marilyn yet. Is Marilyn pinned?
Yes.
I'm not. Oh, there we go. Hey, Marilyn.
Hi.
I'm Lane.
Hi, Lane. I'm Marilyn from Texas.
Nice to meet you. What did you want to go deeper with?
The sense that I have had such a tough time not wanting to be the smart one. And that goes way back of wanting to be the smart one, of trying to do the good thing. And I get traumatized when that is injured. And I feel like I tried to be the smart one or tried to help and I didn't. And so this exercise of remembering my humanity helps me reconnect with that deepest, truest sense of myself, that part of my humanity that is supposed to just be, not do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah, you wanna be the smart one.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you are, when somebody gives you feedback that maybe what you said wasn't so smart, that doesn't feel so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I'm embarrassed and awkward and I freeze up and don't know what to say and think I'm going to sound more stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if I'm talking to a person of color, and I can think of a couple of people and specifically that I interacted with, and then I just froze up because I sensed I'm being really ignorant and I may be offensive here and not know it. And that's going to be so embarrassing. And I don't want to injure them either. I want to be the good person who doesn't injure too.
And when you remember your goodness,
Mm-hmm.
Tell us something good about you.
Because I'm a deeply spiritual person, I'm totally loved by God. And whatever form your God is, I'm totally loved by God. And I'm part of this universe and part of this creation. And so I have inherent goodness just because I am.
Mm-hmm. So go on and just for a moment, take a moment and feel God's love right now.
Mm.
And know God's love and feel it in your body. Notice how God's love impacts your body right now.
It's in my chest. I feel a swelling in my chest, a comforting swelling in my chest.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, feel that swelling, comforting. Yes. That's right. Our trauma experiences live in our bodies too, but our beautiful experiences can too. And it's normal for us. Sorry, stay with that while I just give this bit of theory. Sorry, that the traumatizing ones imprint more inside of us and live as implicit memories. But we can also create implicit memories of this experience, these kinds of experiences, so that we can live in them also. So feel that and soak that in. Take a bath in God's love. And feel that swelling in your chest that is God inside of you loving you. loving you.
And I know that the part that God is loving is the 11-year-old in me, who was first aware of trying really hard to do something right and completely being rejected by my whole class for 2 years.
Yes. Right. That was that original trauma. You were trying to do something right. You were rejected. I just want to say God is loving that 11-year-old and is loving the whole of you too. Loving her and all of you, your entire wholeness. And now feel God's love and go back into one of those situations where somebody gave you racial feedback, where you did the wrong thing. Like Miss Annie said, you tried. And go and feel God's love in that situation, and imagine yourself there feeling God's love and letting God's love also not just be for you, but also be for the other person. And feel not just the risk that you took, but the risk that they took to give you that feedback. And let God's love wash over you and wash over them too.
And that's a new experience for me, to be aware of them risking, and that to say anything to me was a risk.
Yes. Right. It's a big risk. That's a big risk. What was that woman's name? Sarah Cooper in Central Park? Man, it's a risk to try to cross white people, to try to bring some kind of awareness.
Yes.
That man was just trying to bring some kind of awareness about the leash law. And what happened? What could have happened to him? What happened to Emmett Till?
Yes.
Right? Where's the risk?
Now you're talking.
Where's the risk? Go on and let God's love not just be in you, but shine through you toward that person. Be bigger than your little self, and let God be in that conversation. And yes, God can take care of that little 11-year-old who's going, oh no, I did the wrong thing. But let God also come through and hold that person and both of you. And how would you respond then?
Are you being rhetorical or literal?
I'm asking you a question.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm being tearful. Tears are in my eyes as I feel the humanity of both of us, and feeling that I have centered myself, and I'm important to take care of too, but I need to be much more aware, and I'm thankful to be aware. I don't need to be. I'm thankful at this moment to be aware of her humanity and the experiences that she's having at that moment, that even though I can't understand them, that I need to be compassionate and humble and aware that that was a risk to even say to me flippantly something to bring up, that my comment was naive and ignorant.
Yes. And now let's go even a little bit further with that, with God's love flowing through you and compassion, feeling the compassion for her. Now go on back and remember what she actually said to you. And take it in as God in her talking to you. That's God talking to you.
Mm. Yes. Yes.
And notice what happens in you when you take in her feedback as God's loving words to you. God is loving you and using that woman to love you. And take in God's words.
And because she changed the subject, I think inside she was saying, oh shit, I wish I hadn't said anything, because it seemed like it was awkward for her and she moved on. And so to have whatever her experience was, to take her gift and not take from her.
Yeah. Yes. I just want to mention, that's right, take her gift, not take from her. And I just want to mention that she probably noticed it was awkward for you and moved on to protect you.
Yes.
And that's self-protective for her, because
Yes.
an uncomfortable white person is dangerous.
Mm. Mm.
So now let's imagine. So go on and feel in you God's love. Realize that that was God speaking to you through her. And if you could let God speak back to her and not say, oh, she wanted to change the subject, but she did it to protect me. If you would speak, let God speak through you to her, what would you say to her?
Thank you for your generosity and seeing me. And just having that love, acknowledge that she is in a space with feelings and maybe overwhelming feelings at that point, that it's okay for her to have her feelings. It's okay for her to either take care of me or take care of her, or do the same, both at the same time, whatever she needs.
I just want to offer.
Please.
I just want to offer that if she tries to take care of you, say, you know what? I don't need you to take care of me, because God is taking care of me.
Okay.
Yes. I don't need you to take care of me. I have my God.
I don't need you to take care of me. I have my God.
Yes.
Mm.
And I'm feeling care for you. You may not want my care. You may not want my care, which I understand. You don't know me. You don't trust me. I'm not so trustworthy.
Yeah.
But I know God loves me, and I feel your pain, not just mine.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to take care of me.
You don't have to take care of me. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to say, when I'm here talking to you, Marilyn, I feel like I'm channeling Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams. I am holding love and justice at the same time, because I heard you say she could take care of me or herself, and the coddling white person would say, oh yeah, just let that pass. But I don't want to let that pass. I trust that you can sit in the fire of me being able to say to you, no, that's not her job. Right. That's God's job. That's your job.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I personally have pulled on so, I want to cry. I have pulled on so many Black people and other people of color to take care of me.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And they have done the emotional work. I have burdened them with my, you take care of my trauma.
Yes.
You take care of my trauma. You come into my house and you clean up my house.
Yeah.
You know how many Black people have cleaned up white people's shit in their homes, in their countries, in their psyches? That's not our work. That's not their work.
Right. 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 Right.
And as I'm saying that, I want you to remember that God loves you and that this feedback is God now talking through me to you because he loves you.
Yes. And beautiful freedom.
Freedom. Tell me about the freedom.
Freedom to not ask anybody to take care of me. Freedom to not impose on others and continue to impose on others. And if I do ask someone to take care of me, impose on me, it's redeemable and I'm still lovable.
Because you're going to mess up. We do. And you've got another chance.
Yes. Yes, I'm perfectly imperfect.
And if you do make that mistake.
You mean when?
Right. When, thank you. When you make that mistake and you know God loves you and you can find it's a mistake, you can also repair that. If we're not stuck in our own shame, then we can repair that. We can say, I made a mistake there. I tried to get you to take care of me. That's not your work. I apologize.
Yes. Yes.
We don't have to just sit in the mistake. Part of being redeemed is realizing that we have gone astray and making amends for what we've done.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Repair. When we're resilient, we can repair. Thank you, Marilyn. That was,
thank you.
Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Whew. Wow. All right. Wow. Well, Adam, could you unpin us, please, so we can all go back to gallery view and the view up at the top right? I'm going to go back to gallery view. And could people write some comments in the chat, please? Yeah. Write some comments in the chat. Some people, wow, thank you both, thank you. When resilient, we can repair. This is what happens when we let the heart speak. The heart speaks love. Yeah. Gratitude to the village. Yeah. Need resilience to be and compare. Thank you, Harper. Yeah. Yeah. This is not your work. You do not have to take care of me. So powerful. Yeah. Yeah. Did anybody relate to what Marilyn was talking about?
Oh.
And for the Black people here and the other people of color here, how would that be to have the white people have that way of being with you when you give them feedback, when you give us feedback? Yeah. Nanti said revolutionary. would appreciate it, said Alexi. Yeah. We can have adult conversations about healing and solutions, said Dizena. Sarah said, such an important lesson not to expect Black people to educate us. There's Google, I heard a Black person say recently. Yeah, a novelty in America. Yeah. So we have 1 minute left before Frank's going to come in. I am so appreciative. I was going to do something, but we ran late, so I'm not going to do it. So I just want to give it to you for you to do on your own after here. It's called Head, Hands, Heart. Remember something that you're bringing with your head, a new idea you learned, a new thing that you learned, something you're bringing with your hands, a new tool that you can use, and something you're bringing with your heart, something that moved you. And I want to invite everybody, on your own to feel into that, to think into that, to remember, and to write that down. What is your head? What did you learn? What is it? What are you bringing with your hands? What is the tool or the tools you can use? And what touched you? I know a lot of things touched me today. I'm so grateful for everybody. And I'm so grateful to Diane Wong. Diane, this opportunity, man, this was so, wow, so grateful to you and for your leadership and for your giving us these opportunities to learn together and grow together and sit in the fire together.
That's
and
right.
Frank is going to talk about this whole thing is to prepare us for the next conversation so that we can sit in the fire and talk about reparations in November. That's our next event, our race retreat.
Yeah, I can do that. I just want to say thank you to everyone that came today. I know that some people thought there was no fire. I'm sure some people thought there was a lot of fire. So again, it depends on where you're at, and all of these are preparing us. And this has been part of an ongoing series of events for the year. And our final event will be November 6th, the Demand for Reparations, the Race Retreat. So we hope that you will come out and bring some of your newfound skills and sit with us, because there will be definitely some fire then. We don't have an exact date, but if you go out to racialjustice.com, or our website, it should be posted there. And everyone's been to Eventbrite. If you go back out to Eventbrite and you find us again, you can follow us. And what that means is whenever an event is posted, you'll get an email saying, Racial Justice is doing an event and here are the details. So those are two ways to stay in touch with us. But again, I just really want to thank everybody for coming and spending this time. And I know that the conversations and the topics are difficult for every single person that's in here. And I really appreciate people sticking through it and trying to learn and grow and moving on to this just society we keep talking about. So thank you all for coming.
And I just want to say, I'm going to stick around, and some other people are going to stick around to talk afterwards. If you have questions or you just want to share feelings or critiques or everything. And I just also really want to thank Jai and Irina, the co-facilitators there. Awesome work and awesome co-creation of this thing together. And all the small group facilitators, couldn't have done it without you. Thank you and this is all volunteer stuff, so we're working on getting funding, but so far it's all volunteer. So stick around and let's talk.
So Lane, before we look at there, we're ending on time. We have really struggled over the timing here. So before we end, just a couple of things. What Lane just said, we are a volunteer organization. We can't really hold this kind of work that has gone into this much longer as a volunteer organization. So we're going to be hitting up foundations to get some funding, and we're hitting you up right now. So if you can donate, there's got to be ways. We have to have ways that you can donate. But also, we're sending out, you should get it very soon after this ends. We're going to send out a short 5-question multiple choice survey. So to find out, to get some feedback from you, because we're building. This is a creation. And the next thing we're going to create is going from here to create these practice sessions that we all need. So, so I just wanted to say that. And I want to bring on, I see so many comments in the chat. We're so happy to have Daisina. She's one of our newest members of the Racial Justice Collaborative. And she brings such warmth among everything else. So I want to bring Daisina up to say a few words of closing for us. Thank you, Daisina. Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. I acknowledge that it is exactly 4 o'clock. If you will allow us the grace of just 2 more minutes to close it out and tie a bow until the next time. And I want to acknowledge that for the depth and the length of this conversation, I've watched the numbers and we have stayed steady at 44. People have stayed in. This doesn't happen. This doesn't happen except when we are bringing our heart and our soul into this work. And so acknowledgement for everyone, if you will place your hands over your heart, because that clearly has been the space of today, and land your eyes inside of the eyes of someone else on your Zoom screen, and take in their humanness, take in their love, take in their appreciation, take in their fear, their worry, their concern. Just let them know, I am with you. I am with myself. I am with this group. Acknowledge yourself for being here in the fire at whatever level you thought it was for you. And make your own commitment to do your work. Don't let it stop here. Continue to grow and deepen yourselves, because we are the ones who we've been waiting for. And so in love, appreciation, peace, and rage fire healing, on behalf of Diane Wong and all of the Racial Justice Collaborative members, we say thank you, ashe, and so it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisina. Stick around for the after party.